Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Conservation Conversations. It is I, John Kinghorn, and my colleague Jessica Woolmott here. Say hello to everybody, Jess.
How's it, everybody? You might see that there are two of us tonight, so we are trialing a new format with two co-hosts, maybe even three. We have Kurt Martin, our comms manager, in the corner. He's also learning the ropes and will soon be a co-host as well. So, as John said, welcome to another episode of Conservation Conversations. It's our sixth season, episode 2 for the year. We're very excited to have you here. And many of you would have seen our newly released promo video. We're quite proud of it. It's taken a lot of work. So please let us know what you think in the comments.
Excellent. So we'll kick things off this evening, everybody, with first of all an apology in advance because, like Jess has so rightfully highlighted, we are trialing a new format. And today is rather exciting in that we have two panelists joining us, as you would have seen on the start of the slides. Yeah, please just bear with us if there's any technical difficulties. We're excited about this, I think, Jess, because it's unique. It's a panel type of discussion, and I think it allows for a lot more interaction from the viewers as well. So this is not going to be the set thing going forward. It's unique.
Yeah.
It's very much unique.
So on that note, we want to encourage you to pose a lot of questions in the question box or chat box, which we can also give through to Mark and Guy at the end.
Excellent. So this is season 6 of Conservation Conversations, and of course we are very excited to be back. And we're starting off with a bang. Jess, I mean, we've been talking about it in the office. It's been fantastic. This is a magnificent publication that we're going to talk about this evening, and I must encourage everybody, if you have missed any YouTube videos, Conservation Conversations, previous episodes, it's all available on YouTube. It's magnificent.
Yeah.
One need only sign into YouTube and look for all of the episodes. So no possibility for you to miss out on any of these.
Oh, it's me. So we are also on all social media platforms. As you know, our Instagram is very active. Our Facebook page is still inactive at the moment, but you can find us on Twitter, like John said, YouTube, and then yeah, we have our dedicated email address, and you can reach us if you have any questions or suggestions. And more importantly, just to know, let us know what you think of the show.
And then on to tonight's episode, everybody. And I think everybody is chomping at the bit, all 188 of you. Like we mentioned when we kicked things off here, we have a magnificent opportunity to talk to none other than Guy Upfold and Mark Brown. And it's a fantastic opportunity to talk about this publication, which has now just or arrived on the shelves, Robert's Sunbirds and Sugarbirds. If you've yet to get your hands onto a copy, everybody, you need to get your hands onto one. We were just talking earlier about how there was a copy donated to the Flock to Marion voyage. And for those who are joining from Flock to Marion, it was magnificent. And I think you can all agree. But this particular copy went for a swim in the Indian Ocean. Yeah,
one of a kind.
One of a kind. And Ingrid and Peter Harrison wrote in it and said, "This is the only copy of Robert's Sunbirds and Sugarbirds to have gone swimming with albatrosses in the Indian Ocean." So it ended up, it's for a worthy cause. It ended up selling for magnificent prices. So well done. But without further ado, let me introduce our guest speakers, who are highly acclaimed individuals, very decorated in the world of ornithology. And so it's an absolute pleasure to introduce Dr. Mark Brown and Guy Upfold. Mark grew up with a deep and abiding interest in all species of birds, and much of his career over the past 25 years has been spent studying them. He has worked on a range of bird pollination and avian physiology projects and has since become a leading researcher in the field of nectar feeding birds within Southern Africa. He's published over 100 scientific papers and works across the fields of ecology, physiology, pollination ecology, animal behavior, and conservation biology. Mark is an accomplished ornithologist and bird ringer and shares his knowledge in public lectures, articles, and publications such as this one. Guy Upfold is a passionate photographer, wildlife enthusiast, and has a deep appreciation for birds and plants. He has an extensive experience in desktop publishing, layout, and design, and has been involved in the production of publications that are renowned within the Southern African ornithological and botanical communities. As a devoted trustee of the John Voëlkler Bird Book Fund, Guy designed this book and made a significant contribution to its contents, showcasing his unwavering enthusiasm for birds. It is going to be a fantastic talk this evening, everybody. And without further ado, I would like to welcome Mark and Guy to turn on their screens so that we can all greet them. Good evening.
Hello, Brian. Very nice to see you all.
Yes, certainly. Guy, I see your
Hi,
video.
everybody. Thanks very much for having us.
Excellent, everybody. It's yeah, it's a pleasure to have you all on, and the accolades are quite simply phenomenal. Just sitting here reading that out and having digested everything. Mark, I've been fortunate enough to know you for some years. When I had substantially more hair and was taking an interest in bird ringing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun spending time with you over the years. And always look forward to our chats and our time together.
Definitely. And Guy, I mean, your name and reputation precedes you, and it's a pleasure to have you on your first episode of Conservation Conversations. It was just the other day, Jess and I had our first episode of Conservation Conversations. You are sweating remarkably less, which is fantastic.
Thank you very much for having me. Seems like
But yeah, I think tonight, I mean, like Jess and I have said, is unique in that we have this new format that we're busy going for, and it really is just testing the waters to see if it works, because a lot of topics lend themselves, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of topics lend themselves to panel type discussions when there's a whole bunch of people involved, and there's different insights and different points of views, and a lot of the time we find ourselves where we can't put things into one episode because there's just so many role players involved.
Exactly, yeah. And I guess, yeah, based off of the questions that we get from all our viewers, there are such fascinating and valid questions that we can't always get to. And we're hoping that with this new format, it will be more organic and just more engaging. And yeah, we'll see what the reviews are.
Yes, so please, everyone, let us know if you
Be gentle.
Be gentle, please. Yes, if you detest it, just label it nicely. ChatGPT is phenomenal. One simply need only put a complaint in there, strongly worded, and then request it to rephrase it very politely. So gently, yes. But jokes aside, any criticism and advice is appreciated. This is obviously for the viewers and birders, and we want to make sure it's living up to its reputation.
Yeah. But without wasting any more time, I think it's time that we talk about this phenomenal book.
Yes, this is true.
Yeah. So I think, one of the first questions we had when we saw it is just, what inspired you guys to partake this challenge? Because I'm sure it was a challenge. So, what inspired this book?
Maybe I can kick that off because I think I got involved with the book before the trust got involved. And so a little bit of my own personal journey, as a young postgrad, I was mentored by Prof. Colleen Downs at UKZN, amazing ornithologist and biologist in her own right, and a past president of BirdLife South Africa. And one of her interests is sunbirds and sugarbirds. And, I was just drawn along for the ride and went on field trips and slowly took over some of that work from her and working with her, and working with Gurney sugarbirds and Malachite sunbirds in the Midlands. And quite early on in my career, decided, one day when I'm big, I want to write a book on these birds because they're so cool. And then kind of, forgot about it. There's, you have those little dreams as a youngster, and you kind of feel that's what you want to do. And ended up doing my PhD with Colleen from the bird side and Professor Steve Johnson, an A-rated pollination ecology scientist, and was really blessed and privileged to work with people of that caliber, and just kept going with the sunbirds and pollination work and stuff like that. And then here I am sitting in Plet years later, and I get this phone call, and this lady introduces herself. She says to me, "My name's Gail Darrell. You might have seen a book I painted years ago on ducks with Gordon MacLean. I said, yeah, I got that on my bookshelf. I love it. And she says, well, I've spent the last 15 years painting sunbirds, and I'm looking for someone to write the book on it. And I couldn't believe it. It was like just all those sort of feelings of wanting to write the book and wanting to do something like this came up. And so that was probably 2019. Gail and I started discussions, started writing a little bit, and then COVID and circumstances and life and everything hit the wall. And I actually went back to probably late 2020 and said, Gail, I just can't do this anymore. I'm not able to. I'm not in a position where I can put the time and the energy into it. And I actually passed the buck along, and it ended up on Hugh Chittenden's desk via David Allen, where he took it up for the trust and said, look, we'll take this on. And I was only a year or two later, Guy can come in then, when Ingrid actually gave me a call and said, look, we know you said no before, but what about now? And, my life had taken an upturn. I was in a better space, had the time and capacity, and said, oh, please, I'd love to still be involved with this amazing project. And fast forward another 18 months, 2 years or whatever, lots of gray hair for Guy and Ingrid, having to deal with Gail and I, and here we are with this book.
That's phenomenal. I mean, what an opportunity. And like you say, it's a childhood dream that came true. So well done for seeing it through. And I'm glad they approached you again and convinced you to take it on, because it is an incredible product.
I mean, I mean, Mark's, I was having a look through some of these pages. I happened to find myself in an exclusive books the one day, and before I actually saw the publication, I thought it was perhaps going to be something small, and I was worried that the finer details of some of these magnificent pieces of artwork were not going to sort of come through in this traditional field guide type format. So when I came across it, and all of a sudden I saw in this stunning inscription on the spine, Robert Sunbirds and Sugarbirds. Immediately I was overjoyed, and I mean I opened up the book and it's just magnificent. The bigger context, the bigger sort of size, it really allows for the individual finer details to come through, and it's fantastic, and it's very fortuitous that out of all the people that were approached, Gail happened to find you, the person obsessed with sunbirds and sugarbirds.
Yeah, one of many. There's a few in the audience that are also leading researchers on sunbirds and sugarbirds, either past or present. And so yeah, it was a privilege to work on it. This big layout and this amazing format. Guy's got to talk to that, because that was literally inspired by his skills and Ingrid Wesby just wanting to do something different. And we've had a lot of comments, people saying it's much bigger than we thought, much thicker than we thought. Yeah, it's cool to hear comments like that. Guy, what do you say?
Yeah. Well, I first saw the paintings. Hugh actually phoned me and he said, Guy, you've got to come here now. And I thought, oh no, Hugh, I'm busy now. I can't come now. I'll probably see you at the end of the week. So he says, no, you must come now. So he says, you've got to see these paintings, and I don't have them for long. Come now. So I drove over to Hugh's place, and he had them all laid out on his desk all over the place. And I mean, they're magnificent. They really are amazing. They look great in the book. In real life, they really are unbelievable. And Hugh and I have seen a lot of artwork over the years. I've done all the scanning of all the artwork, and we've really got some amazing artists that we've done. But we've never had anything quite like this before. And so Hugh and I were sitting there thinking, how are we going to do this? And we both said, well, we can't just make an art book. It's got to be something else. So, and we chatted to Dave Allen as well, and we sort of decided we've got to make this, we've got to put photos in it, and we've got to make it more than just an art book. We've got to make it something really special. And that's sort of how it started. And like Mark said, eventually Dave Allen, I think he did one or two sort of trial runs to see what we were going to do. And then he wasn't able to anymore. He also his sort of life got in the way of it, and fortunately we found Mark, and we could carry on with the book. We had already started collecting photos and that then, and asking people, and all the photos were donated by everybody. There's a long list of photographers in the book, some just incredible shots. And we tried to look for not just pretty portraits of the bird, but behavior and molt and all those kind of things that would bring something new to the book, which was quite exciting to do as well. We started off, or I started off thinking that actually also that the book would be a little bit smaller, and I actually started off with a different layout. But then when we realized how many photos there were and what it was like, we actually re-looked at it and made it closer to what it is now. So yeah, it was a really nice experience doing this book. Nice to have both the art and also all the information and that all in one place. It's very special.
It is special, and I think that's also what jumped out as unique when I was paging through it. And I mean, there's a slide up now at the moment with these pictures, and it contextualizes things a lot. And I think in the age of photography, it's been fantastic because we find ourselves in this unique position, this unique era where we have the ability to photograph these birds as and when we happen to come across them, and it does add a certain element of assistance when it comes to fully appreciating them in their natural environment. So I think it's a fantastic addition, and I think it lends this whole discussion about how Hugh approached you. It's Hugh Chittenden, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, that's right. I've been very lucky to been able to work with people like Hugh and well, lots of others as well. Ingrid with her arts, and also Pooley with her plants, and Jeff Nichols with the plants. I've been very fortunate to be able to do that. So Hugh is quite amazing with all that he's done for Roberts and for ornithology.
Absolutely.
Yeah, excellent. And I mean, Hugh's remarkable in terms of what he's done and accomplished.
Yeah. I mean, you guys mentioned the phenomenal photos that you had access to, but the first question that popped into my mind was how you actually chose. You have such a vast library. How do you even know where to begin? Is there a story you were trying to tell? What guided your guys' selection process?
Well, Ingrid was really great at that. Both of us collected photos, and we asked. I mean, you'll see many of the photos are actually Hugh's, but we asked and went through our collections and asked for things that were different, that people hadn't seen before. A lot of the photos you'll see are not even, they're not brilliant photos, if you can call it that, not perfectly sharp or anything, but they show something unique, and that's what we were looking for. And Ingrid was great with that. She spent a lot of time going through the photos and trying to figure out which to choose. There were just so many photos. We obviously couldn't use them all. Even with some species, it's more difficult because they're a lot more rare. But with the more common species, like the malachite that Mark mentioned, we could have made a whole book on just those. There were just so many to choose from. But we were trying to be very careful not to just choose photos that were just pretty pictures, but that would say something a bit more. I say Ingrid was fantastic with that. And then once Ingrid had gone through and chosen, and we tried to caption them, we were lucky to have Bryce Foster, who went through and reread and edited as well. Bryce actually did the maps for the book too.
Phenomenal.
So we in South Africa, we're very lucky to have the bird atlas that's sort of community science. I don't know whether there are any places, Mark will know more, any places in the world that have info like we have available to us and free to use in these things. It's just an incredible resource.
Yeah, look,
And
there's others in the world, but South Africa's definitely got the best.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing free resource. I use it in a lot of my research, and to use totally updated data for this book for the maps was a real blessing.
I think it's a very valid point you raised there, and I was actually having a discussion with somebody on Flock the other day. I haven't even spoken to Jess and Kurt about it as well, but it's almost there was this noticeable presence of young birders on board Flock, and it wasn't just that because there would be cetaceans that would pop out of the water, whales, dolphins, etc. And these young guns would be on it, and they'd know, okay, no, it's probably this beaked whale or this minke whale, and it was just mind blowing. And you sit down and you think, you wonder to yourself, why? How is this? I mean, yes, we have the internet, but I think it speaks to the quality of the natural history resources that we have available at our fingertips. We can literally walk into any bookstore and stumble upon a field guide or an informative natural history resource to anything from mushrooms through to grass through to family or sort of topic specific publications such as this. And it's not just basic, information. It's in-depth, phenomenal contributions towards our natural history collection. And this just is one of those. I mean, it's more than just a display book that one would simply purchase and put on your coffee table. It's got heaps of information in it that one would need to consider. I think, we're talking about the sunbirds and sugarbirds, and I think a question that Jess and I have been asking ourselves. I think we can answer the question of why are you guys birders or obsessed with birds because of your accolades and your achievements. But the pressing question, and I think a lot of the viewers are probably asking it as well, is why a publication on sunbirds and sugarbirds? Was it simply just the paintings that sparked the discussion? I mean, Mark, you've explained your undying and unwavering love for these birds and pollinators in general, but is there a greater ecological role, environmental role that these birds are playing here, or is there something that the readers perhaps overlooking when considering this book at face value?
Maybe I'll go first, and then I'll let Guy put his 2 cents in. We could wax lyrical and be flowery and give you 100 other reasons, but to be honest, it's Gail's art, and that's what inspired the book. But it doesn't negate the fact that this is an incredible group of birds that play vital roles in the environment, that are facing some severe challenges in some cases from things like climate change and habitat fragmentation and habitat loss, and a suite of other sort of problems, and yet are such inspiring role models to us as people, and that share our lives with us daily. I mean, there's hardly a place in South Africa you're going to be where you can't go and see a sunbird sipping nectar on a flower or on a nectar feeder with no food colorant in it and just plain sugar water, and be inspired by it. And they're majestic jewels that fly around in our lives. So yes, absolutely 100%. Gail's incredible artwork, but also why not? I mean, if you're going to choose a group of birds to do a coffee table celebration that is also informative and valuable as a resource, I think it's a good one to start with.
yeah, I agree. Obviously Gail's art was the first inspiration, but I think they're such a nice, varied and interesting group of birds. They lend themselves to this. They're just they just are the right kind of thing for this kind of book, I think. I'm sure there are other groups of birds as well that could do that, but I think if you were trying to think of one quickly off the top of your head, sunbirds would probably be one of the first that you would think of.
100%. I would be very concerned if you opted to choose a coffee table book on hardy daws.
Don't discriminate. Yeah, all birds are special.
You
They really
tell.
are.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is encouraging to know, and Kurt actually being an artist would be encouraged to know that, art really has a place in conservation initiatives. So yeah, it's really nice hearing that inspired the whole project. And, Mark, you're actually reminding us that even though maybe not all of us in Joburg get to see them on a daily basis, maybe you and Plet, but it's a massive privilege. And talking about citizen science projects, it just reminds us how valuable that is in conserving such an incredible species that we might be overlooking in the hardships they are.
100%. And it's crucial. Artwork has dated back many, many years, and I think it'll always have a place, even in the age of digital photography. There's certainly, I think, will always remain a place for artwork such as this, and it's phenomenal. Mark, I see that it looks like as if you are typing an answer to one of the Q&As that we've received. But if you don't mind, I'm actually going to chat about it,
Okay.
here because I think it's quite a valid question.
Yeah.
And perhaps without context, some people may have been a little bit disturbed. So perhaps we should just expand on it a little bit. So Roslyn asked us, there was a particular slide that we showed, and perhaps I should just go back to it,
Yeah, I'll bring it up. The
which
purple banded
showed
sunbird.
some deceased sunbirds.
There we go.
But these were not put in, for malice or any form of distaste. There is a reason behind this, and a very important reason for this as well. So, Mark, Guy, could you explain to us what exactly these specimens are and the purpose for including them in this book particularly?
Yeah, so I'm not going to tell you that Guy went out and shot them for the book, because that's not true. These are specimens that were photographed from the collection at the Durban Natural History Museum. So most of these birds that are presented like this would have been collected decades or longer ago by early ornithologists who were studying birds in Southern Africa, or donated to the museum by people whose cat has brought in a purple-banded sunbird, or as one's died after hitting their window, and they'll pop it in the freezer and get it through. David Allen was instrumental in building the collection at the Durban Natural History Museum to one of the best bird collections in the world. And so we've used images like this in the book to showcase variation and overlap between morphological similarities of various species and geographical variation within a species. So, a great example is illustrated here in this page that we're looking at, but an even better one is we've used similar photos of museum specimens to showcase just how tricky it is sometimes to tell the difference between, say, southern double-collared sunbird and greater double-collared sunbird, which geographically have different sizes of red bands. And so if you're in one part of the habitat, you'll see a southern double-collared with a very small band and it's very obvious. But in another part of the country, you'll find one with a larger band that actually starts to look like a greater double-collared if you're just looking at the breast and you're not taking into account the size of the bird, the size of the bill, the location, that sort of thing. And so we've added into the book some of these illustrations to try and help people identify the birds more easily in the field.
And I think it's important because it gives us the opportunity to compare things in size. What always baffled me is I spent some time looking at some of the museum specimens on bats at the Ditsong the Ditsong Museum of Natural History in Pretoria. And what always baffled me was every single time I took out one of these bats, the vision that had been created in my head from the field guide was entirely different to what I was busy looking at in front of me at that specific time. And the same goes for the birds. I saw some pictures shared of collections from the UK of birds of paradise. And you're thinking these are massive turkey-sized birds. And some of them are maybe even the size of a starling, if not closer to a sparrow. And you can't get that context unless you see the bird physically. And sometimes, if you don't have an opportunity to see them in the field, the best thing to do is to put an image like this in a field guide or in a publication so that it can contextualize things a little bit better.
Yeah, there's so much that can be learnt from all the skins at the museum. Like Mark said, the collection in Durban is really amazing. If it's possible to go there, it's definitely worthwhile just to go and see what amazing work has been done on all these birds. For a few years, Hugh and Ingrid and Dave Allen did that Robert's Geographic Variation of Birds. And most of that was done by comparing skins, and they would go there and spend hours looking at these skins and sorting them and comparing them, laying them out in the different from the different regions that they came from. And it's incredible. These birds have been in these drawers with a little label around their leg for many, many years, and they're still brilliant color and still so useful to us. It's definitely a really valuable resource that we have for us as well.
Yeah, certainly.
I'm imagining everybody swarming to the museum now. We
There
have
we
a
go.
closer look at the specimens. But like you said, it's a unique opportunity to see the birds up close, where otherwise you wouldn't. Whether you appreciating them through binoculars or camera, this is a different perspective.
Certainly.
Definitely.
And you were speaking of people flocking to the museums to have a look at the collections, rather than flocking to Marion. The collections and that whole process of documenting these birds, be it through skins or collecting all of this information. A project of this magnitude, I can only imagine the hours it would have been required to sit down and pour it into making this an end product. But coupled with that, a whole lot of teamwork. How did you guys do this? Was it in person? I mean, you mentioned, Guy, that you went to Hugh and had a look at the stuff in person, and Mark, I'm sure you guys met in person along the way. But was this done virtually? Did you guys have to spend many hours, having tea and coffee with one another? How did you go about making this all happen?
We didn't spend any time with each other,
Unreal.
actually. It was all done over WhatsApp and email and phone calls. And yeah, Hugh and I, because Hugh's just down the road, we obviously discussed it and we had plans ahead, but then Hugh wasn't really involved with anything except the initial sort of go ahead with that. And then it was Mark, Ingrid, Bryce, and myself, really, we all chatted over WhatsApp and email. And that's sort of how we worked. It's difficult to get together with these kind of things, and I found most of the books that we do are like that. You're normally too far apart to just stop around and check things out. So PDFs and images and text Word documents are sent backwards and forwards, and it's all done like that.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever met Guy face to face, and I haven't met Bryce. Look, Ingrid was in the area on holiday at one stage a couple of years ago, and we had a good sort of 4-hour coffee session, just brainstorming and making sure we were on the same page. Obviously, Gail lives in Wilderness, not too far from, or in Hookville, not too far from me in Plet. So I did pop down and see her from time to time. But this is the beauty of the technological age we live in. We can put together something like this that would have taken a lot of hours together next to a desk, which we can now do without even meeting each other. It's amazing.
No, it's quite phenomenal, and a similar situation now in Flock as well. In that, for the first time ever, for those of you who have that publication, the new Seabirds identification guide as well. Martin Perra, Hans Larsen, and Peter Harrison for the very first time met in person on the Flock to Marion voyage, but yet it was as if they'd known each other for years.
Yeah.
But they'd done absolutely everything remotely, and it's simply mind-blowing.
But continuing the discussion on the process, Mark I'm assuming, you did a lot of the text, so it would be interesting to understand the process and what you decided to include, what you didn't. Were you guided by the artwork and the photographs, or what were you trying to portray with the information you've included in the book?
Yeah, it's a good question, and the starting point was definitely the Robert 7 texts that were already written, and I was the author for a big chunk of those, and then Tony Tree had done the rest of the Sunbirds that I hadn't done. So between Tony and myself, we'd covered everything we knew up until when Robert 7 came out. So that, we were talking about the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe, but probably late 90s. And we definitely felt as a team working on this book that we needed to update and add so much more information that's been gathered by researchers and citizen scientists over the last sort of decade and a half since Robert 7 came out. And while Roberts is in the process of being updated, that's going to be a different format and a different beast. And so we took the baseline of the Robert 7 text. We also wanted this book to be really readable for the layman. So not reading through scientific jargon and stuff like that. We wanted it to read almost like a story, but with some structure. And so Ingrid did a lot of dumbing down the science jargon for us, and I tried my best as well. So we did rewrite. It's not like we copied and pasted or anything like that. And very importantly, I spent a heck of a lot of time going through recent publications from the last 15 years that were not included in Roberts 7 and just showcasing and updating what we know about these magnificent birds.
It's in fact one of the questions we'd prepped whilst we were looking in the bathroom mirrors this morning, having come out the showers, and
Don't give me visual images there, John, please.
Yeah, I will save birds today. One of the questions that I was really interested about was the amount of research that you had to do. I mean, it's no question that everybody involved in this process is just these phenomenal ornithological minds. But surely there was some kind of degree of research, and you've touched on it now. Was there anything over and above that, Mark, that you really had to try and apply your mind to dive in and learn through the process as well?
Look, I've had the privilege of working on a couple of publications like Robert 7 and the last two versions of the Red Data book as an example. And then obviously just, publishing science myself in journal articles. So the whole process of seeking information and sourcing papers and that sort of thing is kind of okay for me to do. I'm comfortable with it. The difference with this book, which was so cool for me, is I've got lots of anecdotal stories that I'll tell about sunbirds and sugarbirds at a ringing table, things I've noticed or stuff that we've proven with good research, but it's sitting in a dry, dusty journal somewhere. And being able to take those and put those facts into the text, especially in the introduction of the book, there's a lot there where I've been able to take sort of my life's work working with sunbirds and sugarbirds across a range of different fields: physiology, ecology, breeding biology, sugar chemistry in the blood, sugar preferences, pollination work, all of that, and really tell it like a story about these birds. And I think that's what makes the book unique in some ways, and what complements the photos and the amazing artwork. So that was probably the harder part. The science stuff was pretty much okay for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I was excited to hear when you said that, Ingrid essentially helped dumb down the science, because we definitely struggle with that. Just to get across our work and what we're doing just to the general public. So it's very exciting to hear that, and especially, the stories that you've picked up in the work that you've done. I'm sure they are thrilling stories, and people are almost going to get this like back door into the life of a bird ringer and essentially like a long-term scientist. So that's very exciting. And on the note of layman's, we were also wondering, with this book, are you hoping to appeal to the non-birding community? And I guess in that way, almost encourage them to become part of this community, be inspired by these various stories and the illustrations.
Yes, definitely. The idea to, first of all, just to make an art book, we didn't like, because we thought, well, that's only one audience that we're aiming for then. So we thought, well, by bringing it all together, we can really try and make a broad audience, or catch a broad audience for the book. We've got amazing art, we've got amazing pictures, we've got a nice layout, and we've got all this text that Mark has done and Ingrid has gone through, and then Bryce has gone through. So I think we've really been able to make it reach more people. Yeah, we were quite concerned because we've never done a coffee table book before, and we didn't know quite how to go about it. We're used to doing field guides and handbooks, research books. So it was quite a nice new experience for us to do. And while doing it, we thought, well, we really must, Hugh and I thought about that a lot, and we really must try and reach as many people as we can with it. So it's going to be a beautiful coffee table book for anybody who doesn't necessarily love birds and bird crazy like we are. It's just a beautiful book to have on their table. And it's a nice talking piece. Whereas the people that love all the info, that's there too. And the art's there too. And the photographs are there as well. So I think there's something for everybody there.
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, I'm one of my passions as a conservationist is getting people excited about what we do, and I think this book is going to enable us to do that in ways that we maybe haven't in the past under the Roberts banner, or even under sort of other banners as scientists and that. And I mean, just going back a few years, if you had told me that I'd sit and hold something like this, that is so big and so beautiful and so jam-packed with info about these birds, I probably wouldn't have believed you. And yet here we are, and I kind of feel this could open up something more. That there's a market here. The response to the book from my side has been amazing. People just talk about it all the time, and it's been really heartwarming to see the response being so positive. And this is in an age where people 10 years ago were talking about books becoming defunct, and there not being a role for publishing hard copy books anymore. And yet I think this is actually the start of a groundswell where people are looking for something different. They're looking for, yes, the information is important, and the maps and stuff like that. But you can get that anywhere on the internet these days. What people want is to sit and enjoy with a cup of coffee, a group of birds that they love and that they want to learn a little bit more about, and just page through and enjoy. And I think what Guy's done with the layout of this book, and what Ingrid and Guy have done with adding all the photos and just the sheer volume of information and bang you get for your buck buying this book, I think that's going to start something, and I think that probably don't want to, but should consider similar products.
And I mean, it was, with the success of this book, and you yourself saying how well it's been received by perhaps not just birders, but just anybody in general who
Yeah.
may stumble upon this book, it begs to question, and perhaps you may not, perhaps we're being a little bit naughty, but it's fine. Yeah, somebody has to do it. So yes, every 222 other people online, we're going to ask the question on your behalf, and that is whether or not the John Voëlkler Bird Book Fund and Roberts intends on doing similar types of publications with other groups of birds. We are waiting. Teased us. We have accepted the tease, and now we would love to hear more about the future of similar publications.
I'd be lying if I said we hadn't thought about it and didn't have some things that we have up our sleeves for later. But at the moment, we've got so much on our plate. You must know that we've got the new app out that we're trying to get sorted and trying to get up there and the best as usual. We've got Robert's 8 online with the Birds of the World that's happening. And we're trying to update our Robert's 7 text as well for the app. And we've got a lot going on. So we don't know whether there'll be one of these, something like this around very soon. There's been talk of cuckoos and honey guards, but that's as much as I can offer at the moment.
I can think of lots of ideas, but I know if I do, I know Ingrid would probably have a heart attack, or and
Yep.
Guy as well. I mean, I've just got to say, I kind of went along for the ride, guys. That if you want to celebrate this book and identify, you know, why it looks like it does, it's Ingrid and Guy's baby. They've done an absolutely phenomenal job. Obviously Gail's artwork brought, you know, inspired the whole thing, and I love having been involved, but there's no way I think any other organization would have been able to put a book together like this. And then the number of hours that Ingrid in particular put into the text, and that Guy put into the layout and the photos and all of that. Yeah, it goes without saying that they deserve their place on the book as authors, not just as trustees of the Bird Book Fund, you know.
100%.
Thanks, Mark.
And on the note of the Bird Book Fund, I've just realized now that perhaps not many of the viewers are aware of what the Bird Book Fund is. So just a quick synopsis as to the involvement with the John Voëlkler Bird Book Fund and the roles that people play. Guy, obviously a trustee, but perhaps just a brief oversight.
Yeah, well, the John Voëlkler Bird Book Fund was established a long time ago, and it was to the deed of the fund, or the aim of the fund is to produce bird books and support ornithology. Not necessarily to make money doing it, but to make money so that it can do it. So a book like this, unfortunately, doesn't make any money. Printing a book costs a lot of money. And so, you know, we would hope that maybe we would sell a lot, and in a second or a third print run, we might break even. But that's the goal is not to make money. The goal is for the Bird Book Fund is to produce books or other works, or like the app, for example, that will be good for ornithology and will promote ornithology. So that's the sort of the long-term goal of the fund, to be able to carry on doing that and be able to, if there are books that need to be published and can't be done any other way, that's what the fund is for. This book, I think that if you took a book like this to somebody like Strake Publishers, they would turn it down because they know that it won't make any money. So many of the books, that's the ideas and the books that are out there, don't get done because they don't make any money. So we hope to be able to, the ones that are worth doing, we hope we'll be able to carry on doing them. There are 5 trustees in the trust at the moment. Andrew McKechnie, Ingrid Viasby, Nicolette Forbes, Duncan, and myself. So it's quite a big job keeping it going, but we hope that we'll keep it going for many years to come, and we'll be able to continue doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, Guy, I know you said it's there's no financial benefit, I guess, to you guys or the ornithological industry, but I think, you know, from BirdLife's side, credit is massively due to the trust in publishing these books. You know, you're encouraging non-birders to partake in the field, or to help us, you know, conserve the species and their habitats, and the stories that Mark have included in the book is doing the same. So although you're not seeing any monetary payback, yeah, you're doing a massive role, or you play a massive role, in the work that we do and in the
Yeah.
conservation field.
Yes, well, that's the goal. That's the prize, to hopefully that it carries on doing that kind of thing as well.
And I think it speaks to the legacy that the fund's leaving. Not only are you leaving this or creating and leaving this phenomenal legacy, but I mean, the point of the natural history books available to the youth of today and to anybody really, members of the public, and the influence that that's having. I mean, this is just one of those resources that is contributing towards that. And if you look at the whole legacy of Roberts, and how many young birders and young naturalists in particular will say, "Oh no, my first field guide was Roberts." It's huge and certainly something that shouldn't be lost to all the viewers here. That the massive impact that the fund and the Roberts brand is making on the birding world.
Yeah, definitely.
On a more light-hearted note, not that there was anything deep about that, but I would love to know your favorite sunbird and or sugarbird. This may be contentious. One often sits down and decides to not discuss it at dinner table. Politics, religion, relationships, taxonomy, and also which sunbird species is your favorite. But we're posing the question to you this evening. So, Mark and Guy, do you have a preferred sunbird species?
And why?
And why?
I'm going to let Guy
You
go first. I'm going to cop out.
you can't beat the call of the olive sunbird. It's the best. That's doesn't look maybe not the most colorful, but you can't beat the call. That's mine.
Okay, so I have a rule that I don't have favorite birds because all birds are special, even hoddy-daws, John. But when pressed, I will say that maybe I have a few favorites. Um, and I must say, for me, it's probably the Malachite sunbird, and it probably stems from the fact of the work I've done on it. So I've done some amazing research with other people on Malachite sunbirds, and measured their body temperatures down at 26 degrees Celsius from their normal 42 degrees Celsius, just to save energy over winter and go into torpor, and discovered a pollination mechanism because I like failed botany at university, so I'm not a botanist, and I was catching Malachite sunbirds with sticky yellow globules on their feet, and the Canadian student with me was like, "Oh, we should show this to Steve. I think that's orchid pollen." And we discovered a new pollinating mechanism of a dizer that is pollinated by sunbirds' feet, and it was a malachite that I did that with. And we had another master student. We're looking at sleep behavior at night with infrared cameras, and if you look at a malachite sunbird at night under infrared, it puffs out his yellow pectoral tufts, and it looks like two eyes staring from a branch. And so it's memories like that. It's working at the top of Sani Pass and catching malachites on red hot pokers and things like that. Many fond memories that probably leads to me saying, okay, malachite, and then don't ask me to pick between the two sugarbirds. They are just both super cool, and as a family, fantastic endemic family to Southern Africa. And I've worked on both of them, and yeah, if you're going to work on sugarbirds, get thick skin because the claws are sharp.
I learned that firsthand, and pun intended, because my hand was torn to shreds that
Yeah.
one day at Nature's Valley, Mark, when you took me out bird ringing, and
Yeah.
we caught the sugarbird, and I was super stoked because first of all, it's a Cape sugarbird. Second of all, it's up front, and I mean, it's one thing seeing things insofar as specimens are concerned, but actually having a live bird in hand is a completely different experience. And I was quite confused when you're like, no, just be careful. I'm like, no, it's fine. I've ringed thick-billed weavers and survived. Like nothing can beat a thick-billed weaver. Oh, I was very, 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 very wrong. Those feet, because of that, and you explained so rightfully so that their feet have to be hardy because of the proteus and the fynbos, if I'm right, Mark.
Yeah, they got a grip onto a protean high wind, and so they've got these nice needle-like claws to sort of break into the bracts of the proteas and hang on for dear life in glorious Cape Town weather and sip out of a protea.
It's phenomenal. No, it's really, really phenomenal. So we are nearing sort of the end now, but there are just one or two questions I just want to quickly address. And I'm going to ask everybody to hang in there because the Roberts 8, there's a couple of questions with regards to Roberts 8, which is obviously a combination with Birds of the World. And Guy, if you could provide some insights into that perhaps. But there's also the new Roberts app for your mobile devices. That's been released. I think, Guy, if I'm speaking under, I speak under correction. Perhaps you could just provide some insight into that. We will have a separate conservation conversations about this, everybody. But in the interim, perhaps Guy could give us a bit of an insight into an update there.
Okay. Well, the Roberts 8, what we called Roberts 8, started a few years ago. We had an agreement with Birds of the World and the Cornell University that we would help fund and publish Roberts 8 or the updated Roberts 7 on the Birds of the World website. So it would hopefully reach a bigger audience, and it would sort of help them fill in all the gaps in the Birds of the World, especially with all the endemics and that we have. So Derek Emmelbrecht has been working on that. It's a slow process, and the write-ups are massive. So much so that when we thought about doing, we thought, well, we'll do Roberts 8 on there and then maybe do a Roberts 8 book. But I think it would end up 2 or 3 books the size that we've got. There's just so much new info. So Roberts 8 will carry on and will slowly be done over the years on the Birds of the World websites. The Roberts 7, the taxonomy on Roberts 7 is, like Mark said, it's sort of 20 years old now, and a lot has changed. Although it's all good info, a lot has changed. So we're going to be updating that. It's not going to be Roberts 8, but we're going to fix the taxonomy so that on our app we've got taxonomy that's up to date and correct. Yes, both apps have been released, the Apple and the Android. The Apple was released a bit before the Android because Android was kind enough to change their operating system, and so all of our plans of the new app ended up not working properly when we decided to release it. So it threw everything out, and I think we had a lot of very impatient people waiting for us to get the Android version out there. It threw quite a lot out in our whole layout and everything. So, but we are getting there, and it is available. And we've asked everybody that does do it to please help us. If they find any problems or if they find mistakes or anything like that, please let us know. And the amount of emails that come in, there's a pile of them every day with all this amazing feedback from people, from bugs through to suggestions and odd mistakes here and there and all of that. And it's just getting better and better. And I think that's, as time goes by, our app is just going to improve more and more. We've got amazing photographs. I can't remember how many thousand photos and how many thousand calls, and we've obviously got all of our illustrations on there as well. We've got the plates from the field guide on there. There's a new image recognition on it, which is really amazing as well. It works phenomenally. It really is good, and it's just getting better and better. We had a rocky start to the new version, but it promises to be really good, and we committed to making it really good. We just unfortunately, a lot of work and a lot of time has got to go into it.
I agree. It's having had insight into it, it's an entirely new app. So certainly everybody must keep your eyes and ears peeled. If you've not downloaded it, make sure that you do so. I see that there's a couple of people asking where one can find this Robert Sunbirds and Sugarbirds. Some even commenting here saying they've been inspired to go and purchase it as soon as possible. Little kiss, little kiss. So excellent, everybody. We're so glad to hear that you've been inspired to purchase it. I certainly, and I think Jess and Kurt as well, will have our eyes peeled to get our hands onto a copy. But can't
You
wait.
can buy it on. You can buy it online at Jacana Media, or I think it's jacana.co.za if you don't want to go into your local bookshop, but most of the local bookshops should have it. If they don't, please moan at them and ask them why they don't.
Yeah, and Carol from Jacana has just posted that link in the chat, and a massive shout out to Jacana for taking on the project as well.
Yeah, excellent work. Yeah, Carol, I know you and the Conservation Conversations team cumulatively were chatting in the build up to this episode, and thank you for everything that you've done. As Mark and Guy have rightfully detailed. Well, everybody, I think one exciting final note before we wrap up, and that's that. This is Jess is busy going ooh next to me. That is, hopefully you can hear her now because we've mic'd up in the interim, so I'm pretty sure the ooh was audible. But the good news is that we have very generously been given or made available a copy of this book for those who attended the webinar this evening. There's one lucky person who will receive a copy, and we'll do a virtual draw to see who that is, and we'll then make sure that we can get that copy to you. So well done for everybody who attended, and that's very exciting news. The three of us won't form part of that, sadly.
But thank you for donating the book, Carol and Guy. Very generous.
So that's very exciting, everybody. I think one of the few sort of prize giveaways that we've given away on Conservation Conversations. New year, new us, everyone. That's the motto for this year. But yes, please do, before you all start logging off, there's two things. The first thing is, I think, on behalf of Jess and I and Kurt, who's sitting just off to the rear of us. There we go. Hello, Kurt.
Hello, everybody.
Kurt is also going to be joining as a co-host on Conservation Conversations, and Christina is busy watching in the background as well, virtually, of course. But I think from the whole team, we would love to say a massive thank you to the two of you and Carol for making this episode possible.
Yeah, thank you for being willing to, I guess, be guinea pigs to our new trial system. But it's been inspiring hearing where the book came from, and we look forward to seeing more people become passionate about sunbirds and sugarbirds.
It's certainly an exciting topic, and I think everybody after this has now been well and truly inspired. But I think as a closing note, we'll do something a little bit differently this evening, and we're going to share with you all a brand new video that BirdLife South Africa has put together. It's a promotional video, and we are very, 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 very proud of it. So before we run off and end with that, again, thank you everybody for joining, and please, like I said, and like Jess said as well, let us know how it all went and how you enjoyed it. And Guy, Mark, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us.
All right, everybody, we'll play the video, and we hope that you all enjoy.
Birds, they're all around us.
They connect us.
Regardless of language.
Across cultures.
Beyond borders.
Despite our differences, they unite us.
They inspire us and bring us joy.
Birds are indicators of the health of our environment.
Our grasslands, fragile wetlands,
Forests.
And our majestic oceans.
They tell us when something is wrong.
The canary in the coal mine.
What is good for birds is good for people.
Good for communities, for business, for the future.
But many of them need our help.
For over 100 years, we have been studying and conserving birds.
We've been watching them.
And watching over them.
And maybe a little obsessed with them.
Which is why we are doing everything we can
to ensure they survive and thrive, so that our children and their children
can also experience the wonder of birds.
We are educating the next generation.
Creating jobs.
Empowering communities.
Protecting habitats.
Building a sustainable future.
Raising awareness.
Preventing extinction.
Creating hope.
We are BirdLife South Africa. We are giving conservation wings.